Rosa Parks, a seamstress in Montgomery, Alabama, made history in 1955 when she refused to give up her seat to a white customer and stand in the back of the bus. However, to understand how Parks' decision sparked the Montgomery bus boycott, a movement that lasted 381 days, you have to understand American history, the unabridged version. Sadly, it's become challenging for teachers to provide their students with historical facts about discrimination Black people experienced in America. To prune the garden of white supremacy, facts that contradict the myth that white people are entitled to their privilege and did nothing nefarious to acquire it are being plucked like weeds out of our textbooks. Francine Prose wrote in The Guardian that Ron DeSantis' academic restrictions show he hopes to change history by censoring it. To adapt to Florida and other states' laws that censor content, publishers are creating textbooks with alternative narratives that strip historical acts of context, making it nearly impossible for some teachers to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about figures like Rosa Parks. For example, the current version of the textbook for first-grade students states that in 1955, Rosa Parks broke the law that said African Americans had to give up their seats on the bus if a white person wanted to sit down, and that after refusing to give up her seat, the police came and took her to jail. Here, the text clearly describes racial discrimination as a factor that contributed to Rosa Parks' circumstances and her decision. However, publishers showed two versions of the Rosa Parks story in a proposed new version of this Florida textbook that illustrates how censorship can change the narrative. In both versions, Rosa Parks is described as someone who showed courage when she refused to change seats, and she believed she was right. However, in the initial version, the text says that Rosa Parks was told to move to a different seat because of the color of her skin. At the same time, the other takes race out of the equation entirely, suggesting she was told to move to a different seat, without explaining why. Now, imagine future generations of students believing Rosa Parks had no logical reason to protest moving to another seat. It's clear that white fragility guided these editing decisions. Seriously, why even tell her story if you're going to mislead students? Pretending the bus driver randomly asked Rosa Parks to move to another seat ignores the role of racism, codified into America's laws and policies, which necessitated the civil rights movement. Race-based censorship perpetuates a myth about American society that Black Americans were simply troublemakers who challenged laws and policies for no other reason but to cause mischief. For example, white Southerners often referred to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as a troublemaker, despite winning a Nobel Peace Prize for fighting against racial discrimination and segregation. Without understanding the role racism played in the lived experiences of Black people throughout American history, you can't understand the civil rights movement, let alone the Rosa Parks story, not by a long shot. Florida's proposed new textbook and other whitewashed works imagine a world without racism by hiding information instead of challenging racist systems, as Rosa Parks did. Racism was legally enforceable throughout most of this nation's history, which is why an officer arrested Parks for refusing to give up her seat. And Rosa Parks was tired of being treated like a second-class citizen. By depriving students of the proper context, they won't understand why Parks' actions sparked a movement that effectively challenged the status quo. There's nothing neutral about removing race from Rosa Parks' story because doing so actively protects white Americans living in the 50s from any critique of their overtly racist behaviors and the policies they supported. Why else leave that part out? Students deserve to know the truth. America is a nation founded by white men who intentionally excluded Black people, women, and other marginalized groups from accessing equal rights. Therefore, Black people like Parks needed to challenge racist ideas, beliefs, policies, and laws to help America live up to its purported values that we have certain unalienable rights. Black people in the modern era are still fighting racist laws, like those that intentionally omit and distort black history. Here's looking at you, Florida. While Rosa Parks is a well-known civil rights activist, we shouldn't take the public's understanding as inevitable. People develop an understanding of civil rights figures by discussing their lives and experiences honestly. Students gain nothing from white lies. Without teachers, librarians, parents, school administrators, and publishers committed to the truth, we may find more textbooks that omit context in an attempt to make white Americans seem blameless in their role of creating and maintaining a racial hierarchy in this country. And America can't fight racism by hiding from its shadow. Remember, our differences as Americans are not the problem. How different people are treated is. Put another way, race is not the monkey on America's back. Racism is. And you can't confront racism while pretending it doesn't exist. If the whitewashers win, future generations may never learn the unvarnished truth, which is tragic. As Rosa Parks said, racism is still with us. But it is up to us to prepare our children for what they have to meet, and hopefully, we shall overcome.